Jim Schenk. Jim, come on up. You're number 2.
Next. Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm Jim Schenk. I'm the America First MAGA candidate for Congress who, with your help, is going to retire Frank Murvan, flip the seat, hold the House, prevent Speaker Hakeem Jeffries, support the president, set him up for a worthy successor, and finally, after ages, have proper representation of the region. Frank is a feckless, empty suit, Nepo baby, and I don't believe he gives a rat's bottom about the people in this district, even less so at this end of the district. He struggles to get 53% of the vote. His predecessor got 2/3 routinely. Like Ben said, he's weak. And I don't know what Frank stands for. He certainly doesn't stand for us. He thinks his job is to do whatever Nancy or now Hakeem tells him to do. At that job, he's very good. Now, anyone in this room could serve us better than Frank, but there's only one candidate who's actually going to be able to beat Frank. When I agreed to do this in February, we just come off an 8-point congressional loss, which was the same margin that Trump lost our district by back in 20. But even after 4 years of prosecution after prosecution after prosecution, our favorite felon lost this district by a mere 0.4 points. And if you account for the felonious activity in Lake County, Trump won this district. Trump doesn't change. But for 4 years, we had to deal with a brain-dead Obama meat puppet and then watch a palace coup from a Canadian communist. The people of this region said to the Democrats, or the whole nation said, no frickin' way. Now, this seat's been blue for a century, but the people have always been about faith, family, and country. And like Ben said, they know this is no longer the party, or increasingly know it's not the party of JFK, FDR, JFK, even slick Willie Clinton. It's a beast. It stands against everything we hold dear. Politics is a bruising sport. They don't play by Queensberry rules. They play by the rules of radicals developed by Marxist Saul Alinsky in Chicago, used for decades by the mob and the Democrats, which is a little bit of a redundancy, but Republicans lose to Democrats not because we have lesser candidates or lesser ideas. It's because we have less will to win. It's almost sometimes like the Chicago Bears going up against the bad news Bears. And the redistricting battle was a very clear example of it. California is going to send 5 more Democrats. The president and the vice president over and over asked us to step up and make sure this red state sent a full slate of red candidates. And what did they do? They went all Dana Carvey, church lady, lapdog President Bush. Not going to do it. Wouldn't be prudent. So the wimpy establishment, unfortunately, had control over too many of our local officials. And I got to tell you, so those people are supporting one of my opponents, Barb. And whatever she might tell you, she is not MAGA. She's not America First. I'm not even sure if she's region first, and she's not going to be spending $1 million of her own money in this battle. Unlike Barb, I'm not prudent. I stepped forward a year ago when this district was D3, solidly blue. I knew that the people in this district, even Democrats, were going to respond to President Trump's strong leadership. By August, we were D+1. And despite all of the circus going on in Minneapolis, some indication that we're in toss-up territory, not despite President Trump, but because of President Trump. Reagan taught us, well, actually, I've been MAGA since Trump came down that escalator. I knew he'd be our nominee. I thought he'd be our president. But I've been MAGA, well, I've been on Team Trump since '88 when I watched him on Oprah, when he schooled the entire nation that porous borders and bad trade policies were already enriching our rivals, our enemies, and impoverishing Americans. He was so impressive that Oprah was practically begging him to run for president. Reagan taught us when I was a kid, when I was a 13-year-old, you are not, if you can't control your borders, you're not a sovereign nation. Well, if we're gonna let anybody in as a nation, we say who, we say when, we say how, and we say for how long. And we're free to change our minds at any point, because our immigration policy needs to serve America and working American citizens, and not global, and certainly not the Democrats who want to use these illegal immigrants to rig elections, to turn it into a one-party state. Not even our Republican donor class who wants cheap labor and high profits, no matter how many jobs it costs, how many families it destroys, how many communities it destroys. Ross Perot was the most successful third-party candidate ever, and he inspired Trump to run for president. He warned us back in '92 that bad trade deals like NAFTA, NAFTA, which was supported by both the Bushes and the Clintons, the Bidens, and even the Mitch Daniels and Mike Pence's of the world, that it would suck us dry of jobs. And that's exactly what it's done. Went off like an atomic bomb in several communities, including ours, anyone that relies on manufacturing. And it enrages me that after Reagan won the Cold War, defeated Soviet communism, the wall came down, we immediately jumped in bed with the Chinese communists, even though they had just recently killed thousands of their own peaceful demonstrators who'd gathered in Tiananmen Square around a mock Statue of Liberty, yearning to breathe free. I don't know if you remember the tank man, famous poster, who stood in front of the tank trying to block the tank from attacking his friends. That's a very heroic thing. Unfortunately, he was probably dead 2 minutes later. That's the price he was willing to pay for freedom. What sacrifices are we willing to make to protect our freedom that's under constant onslaught? Now think about those Minnesota Marxists. They're using their bodies to block SUVs while they toot on their whistles. They're not heroes. They hate America, and they're trying to rig elections with illegal immigrants, as I said. And they've helped, which helps elect people, some of them often immigrants, like Omar and Kamala and Obama and whoever that commie is in New York City. They want to flood the zone with millions of immigrants that will never be able to send home. They'll not assimilate. They'll change our culture and our communities and suck our coffers dry. Do you know what I call Kristi Noem coming to our region with ICE and arresting several hundred illegal immigrants who steal jobs and lower wages and imperil moms in minivans? I call it a good start. The Hoosier version of Alligator Alcatraz, that's a good start. Let's open the one they're talking about here in the region. 125% tariffs on China, who gutted our steel industry with CCP subsidized substandard steel. That's a good start. Kristi Noem buying a boatload, or several boatloads of steel to build hundreds of miles of wall this week. She bought it. That's a two-pronged good start. U.S. Steel announcing that it's going to invest $1 billion in the Gary Works and hire 1,000 Hoosiers, most likely Hoosiers. That's a really great start. And I'm proud to say that Steelworkers for Trump and their PAC, Republican steelworkers, have endorsed me and my candidacy this week. And I'm going to be relying on steelworkers who we can get to over 50% voting our way to push us over the finish line. And in this midterm, we got to turn out the base and also simultaneously appeal to disgruntled Democrats. Fortunately, we have some rhino hunters coming to stir up the base, TPUSA, Pressler, and such. But we need ourselves, not just relying on outsiders, and for this congressional purpose, not just state Senate purpose, get out the base. 1 minute. We need traditional Catholics. Senator Altar Boy, who was inspired by John Paul II, who fought commies as a young man, and Nazis as a young man, commies as an old man. We have to rely on veterans and their families. Send them a veteran. We have to rely on evangelicals. Send them an evangelical who's been fighting for religious rights and pro-life causes for 40 years and was just in the DC for called Right for Life. March. We're not gonna win this with a Nikki Haley wannabe, or even with my friend Ben, who's probably got a ceiling similar to Mark Label. Send him a fighter. And with your help, we're gonna flip this. We're gonna have proper representation. And thank you for your attention and your support. Let's get this done. Thank you, Tim.
Okay. And then finally, our third speaker, Barb